Hey guys, Phantoms Y here, and we are back with some more G-Senjou no Maou. It's been a few days since I played this, but I vaguely recall what's going on. Hopefully you guys have seen the last episode recently as well. So let's get right into it. Even amongst those as odd as Usami, everyone shows reverence when in the presence of Gonzou. The blathering idiot from a moment ago was nowhere to be seen. With a stern look on her face, Haru sat opposite Gonzou. Speak clearly. She took the threat letter from last time out of her bag as she spoke. What am I looking at? Usami flipped the empty envelope over and placed it on the desk. What about it? On top of it was what seemed to be a black pencil smudge. Something seemed to have come up in Gonzou's mind, and his expression steepened. We all looked carefully. On the back of the envelope was the word North, and a certain distance away, the letters HTS. What does that mean? What could he have written? Usami shook her head. Gonzou narrowed his eyes slightly and answered. Why do you say that? So it's the murder target and his address. There seems to be more. The character for Ko, as in the word Kodomo. Child, right? If you look carefully, it seems to be written right next to Saito. It looks like they're in the same column or something. I immediately ran through the list of people associated with Canon. A name containing the character for Ko. Noriko. Is it Miss Noriko? The female teacher that Eiichi was once smitten with. According to our sources, she opened a cafe no more than 10 minutes away from the arena after she retired. Most of the customers were the skaters, so the shop was very lively. Ah. Gonzou spoke blankly and without emotion, despite it being the name of his ex-lover. One of these three is going to be murdered. If you intend to lend your ears and heed my warning, force her to throw the upcoming NHK trophy. Otherwise, a new sacrifice will be taken at 9 o'clock, the night of the last day. There's no doubt Canon's going to win. If that happens, tonight at 9, Maou might already be preparing for the whole operation. Any other leads? Usami's finger pointed to the clearly visible prints of the once written characters. The P's might be saying paper. Or wait, there's a L-H population? The word bag, and this is paper bag. Paper bag? What on earth does that mean? 5? So what does it mean?
スケート会場内の客席番号だ。
私もそう思います。今日は女子フリーです。
スケート会場内は大変な賑わいです。育子さんの警護も難しくなるでしょう。
Definitely. If his target is Ikiko-san, this number might be where he's seated in the arena.
5番なのか、25番なのか、56番なのかは分かりませんが。
There are also Latin letters ranging from H to K in front of the numbers. If the deadline is 9 o'clock, would there be enough time to take a look at all the seats in the chaotic arena? Before I noticed, the sunlight shining into the room had become brighter. It's probably about 2 in the afternoon. A voice came from outside. The man entered the room with his head down. Yeah, last time we saw you, it was in Tsubaki's storyline, and pretty sure that we smashed your friend over the head with a stick of wood. Horibe, the underboss, is the one calling me the young master and son. He's the second most powerful member of the Sonoyama group, behind Gonzou. An abusive, sadistic glow always shone in his flat eyes. Gonzou nodded as Horibe's report ended. Horibe bowed and left. Well, this is Gonzou. He always has the matter neatly taken care of. He had already prepared a unit that could move freely. This is Gonzou, after all. He probably plans to make the scalpers cough them up. Understood. Usami nodded quietly.
はい、身長は高めです。浅井さんくらいでしょうか。髪型は特に印象的なものでもありませんでしたね。顔をはっきりと見たわけではありませんが、やや前髪が長めだったような気がします。服装はもちろん私が目撃した時の服装ですが、どこにでも売ってそうな黒いコートに、これまた町のサラリーマンが着てそうなスーツ姿でした。
You mean he went out of his way to blend in with the crowd?
しかし、魔王ばかりを追っていると思わぬ罠に陥るかもしれんぞ。
おっしゃる通りです。
I see. There might be an accomplice.
はい。魔王は封筒の上で次の殺害予定者を紙か何かに書いたと思われます。
Or perhaps you're saying that it could be an instruction to an accomplice. In the threat letter Maou sent, he writes that he released a murderer called Mephistopheles into the wild.
しかし、どうにも。
Usami furrowed her brows again. Getting tongue-tied already. Usami, speaking of which, who were you talking with today?
はい。その
なんだ。
I'm pretty sure it said tailing, not talking with. Usami cleared her throat and said,
実はですね、昨日怪しげな人と出会いまして。
When? Where?
西区の港ですね。倉庫が連なっているような場所です。時間は夜中ってところでしたが、男性が岸の縁でしゃがんでたんです。目の前は海です。真っ暗な海を覗き込んでいるものだから自殺かなと思って声をかけましたら、妙に驚かれまして。
He might have taken you for a ghost.
年齢は30ちょっとでしょうかね。妙に武将髭が濃かったような。
So, just what about him was suspicious?
男性の足元で血が点々と海に続いていたんです。
Blood, huh?
血についてはノーコメントでしたが、地面には何かを持ち去ったような跡がありました。後で調べてみたところ、血の点が途中で途切れていた箇所がありました。
And that something was?
わかりませんが、カードでしょうかね。四角いものだと思います。そういう跡ができていました。
But that doesn't necessarily mean the man took it, does it?
いえ、彼の懐中電灯を握る親指の先がかすかに赤に染まっていました。 血染めのカードを拾ったと考えるのは自然です。
What precise observations?
彼はジョギングしていると言ったんですがね、それも多分嘘です。
Yeah, it was a handheld flashlight, right? Would anyone jog carrying something like that?
あの晩は何か人に言えないようなやましい事件があったんだと思います。
Gonzou, who had been silently watching our exchange, finally said,
で、宇佐美はなぜそんな場所に行ったんだ？
Good question. Did she find a lead or something?
あの近くに被害者リストにあるバレエダンサーが住んでいますよね。
Michael Jungmund, I think. Did you go there to meet him?
念のため訪問しましたが留守でした。手元の資料にあるように、その方は2ヶ月前に一時帰国しているはずですから。
Not to interrupt, but wouldn't that mean that the dancer is safe?
だとはいいんですけどね。
Gonzou was still staring at Usami.
それでその怪しげな男を今日の朝まで追っていたというわけです。
話を聞く限り、今回の脅迫事件と関係はなさそうだが。
ねえ、特にこれといった確信はないんですが。
I tilted my head.
私がユグムントさんの名前を出した時にやけに食いついてきたような気がするんです。
Interest? I may not know of him, but isn't he a pretty famous dancer?
いえいえ、藤原紀香も知らない人がユグムントさんを知っているとは思えません。
Huh?
名前を聞かれたので憧れの芸能人の名前を出したんです。
You really have a way of getting things done.
そしたら全くの無反応でしてね、一瞬だだ滑ったのかと思って知りたくなりましたが、どうも相手の様子が素でしてね。
Well, normally one would probably assume it to be a fake name.
まあ藁にもすがるってやつです。
Did you find the man's address?
いいえ、彼は朝までセントラル街のバーで飲んでいました。帰宅する様子も見せませんでした。
I get it. If he can stay that long at the bar, then he must be a regular customer.
ええ、そのバーさえ張っていれば尾行はいつでも再開できます。
話は分かった。その男について何かあれば人を割く。
Well, that'll be all then. We've already finished saying what we need to. I bowed to Gonzou and turned around, prepared to leave.
幾子は殺されても構わ
Damn. Pardon? I looked back in surprise at Gonzo's emotionless
ん。
words.
重要なのは星を必ず捕まえることだ。
We're not the police. We don't place the safety of citizens as our first priority.
あの女はカノンにとってももう不要な存在だ。むしろこれから先は邪魔になる。
What a truly heartless man. I couldn't even imagine him having close relations with Ikiko-san in the past. Suddenly, I thought of my mother. It's the very Azai Gonzou before me that pushed my mother into the abyss of poverty. He's a demon. And as for me, the boy forced to serve the demon, I will drown in an indispersible despair. One day, with my own hands, Gonzou.
浅井さん、どうされました？
No, nothing. We left Gonzou's house.
しかし、このお宅の警備もなかなか物々しいですね。
As Usami pointed out, there are always groups of people patrolling the house. One stationed in the front, 3 in the garden, and each of them carrying a different weapon.
やはりヤクザさんの偉い人ともなると代わりの効かないお体なんでしょうね。
That aside, I'm impressed by how much you found.
はあ、これでゴンゾーさんに役立たず扱いされなければいいんですが。
You concentrated on the envelope rather than the letter. That already proves you're smart enough.
ですかね。あまり褒めないでもらえると嬉しいです。
She looked somehow displeased. It's almost time. Should we call a cab?
電車の方が早いでしょう。
We left swiftly for the subway station.
坊ちゃん、そっちの女性は坊ちゃんの色ですかい？
How blunt. Horibe asked me with a smile. It was already 3 in the afternoon. We met Haribe inside the arena. Me, Usami, Haribe, and 5 of his men were there. They didn't really look all that bad. Their builds and facial features were fairly typical. They could pass for average citizens at a passing glance.
浅井さん、自分色とか言われてるんですけど。
I see your mouth is as foul as ever, Haribe.
おや、違うんですか。そいつは失礼。
Haribe narrowed his thin eyes even more, awaiting my orders. Alright, let's split up. We need to search all seats that contain the number 5. No matter if it's 35 or 52, search it. If you spot any suspicious people, call me right away. Okay?
魔王は背の高い青年なんでしたっけ？
Yes, but we might be dealing with a different agent this time.
ってことは、5のつく席に座ってる野郎全員に梨をつけなきゃならんですね。
The first thing to check would be the name of the person, and check the name on the ticket. Check to see if the 2 names match, basically. The popularity of figure skating is very high, so tonight's tickets were sold out moments after they opened the box office. Maou probably got his tickets through an internet auction or something like that.
でしたら、適当に怪しいやつをしょっぴいて、魔王だの脅迫状だの、犯人しか知らないようなことをかまかけてみますわ。
Haribe might be a sinister man, but one can't hold on to the number 2 seat in Gonzou's organization without also bearing a cunning mind. This might take a while. Still, I hope that everyone can lay low. Try not to cause trouble.
承知してますよ。カノンお嬢ちゃんの晴れ舞台を邪魔しちゃいけねえってことくらい。
あるいは
Usami spoke.
席が空いていたとしても調べてもらえますか？何か不審なものが置かれていないか。
You mean like a paper bag? Usami shook her head.
その5という数すら、そもそも客席の番号とは何の関係もないかもしれない。
But it's still a lot better than just letting this play through. And realistically, we can pretty much be sure that Ichiko-san is his target.
おっしゃる通りです。では動きましょう。
Haribe shouted at the men and scattered.
浅井さん、ちょっと顔色が悪そうですが。
Yeah, I was just up with Cannon until late last night. I can't even walk straight.
そうですか。無理しないでくださいね。
Usami left me with the words, "I'll call you when I find something," and vanished around the corner of the corridor. You certainly are the right person. Thank you very much for the cooperation. I bowed to the lady seated at F51. The arena is so huge, it takes over 10 or 15 minutes to just get from one place to the next. Once the competition starts, we'll only be able to ask spectators between programs. It'll become even more time-consuming. We're pretending to be plainclothes security guards. If the real guards find out, there's going to be big trouble. And to top it all off, even in cases where the spectator and ticket match, we can't let our guards down. I've already questioned 6 people, and any one of them might be Mao's accomplice. This is a very laborious task. What a congregation. Mephistopheles obeyed Mao's orders and left seat C5. As he stood up, a yell suddenly came from the seat behind him. It was a fat, middle-aged woman. I have to try my best not to draw any attention. Mephistopheles bent down, lowered his head, and walked towards the passage on the 2nd floor. The audience was stunningly huge. And for what? Some meaningless prancing? To Mephistopheles, the only true sport was the national game of Japan, sumo. He had already sat through Mao's spiel explaining the draw of figure skating. It's both sport and art. The history of figure skating could be traced back to ancient times. Maou had even told him about the oldest known pair of ice skates in the world, a pair made from animal bones, which are now preserved in a British museum. The entire discourse slipped from Mephistopheles' mind immediately thereafter, though. The only persistent information was about the athlete, Azai Cannon. To put it simply, Azai Cannon was a source of income for a criminal organization. Maou had called her a lost cause. Mephistopheles felt the same way. Criminal groups' actions and ideals weren't ideals at all. These organizations are merely gangs trying to turn a profit. They snatch money from the weak in order to make a living out of a life of crime. When an enterprise brings misfortune to someone, lobbyists and interest groups not unlike Mephistopheles drive their advertisement-riddled vans around the city, eventually stopping at the doorstep of said enterprise and blasting out some cacophony in protest of their actions. As soon as the organization promises to support the interest group with capital, the harassment stops and continues somewhere else. In Mephistopheles' opinion, the existence of people who value only money yet armor themselves in false ideals has stained the concept of interest groups. Maou made his beliefs about Azai Cannon very clear. Once Cannon has disappeared, we will be one step closer to achieving social justice. Also, Cannon wasn't the sort of athlete that represented our nation. She even showed a contemptuous attitude towards the audience. Mephistopheles could understand Mao's feelings. A friend's indignation would be his flare of rage. So he followed the plan and strode down the aisle. It was 9:15 in the evening. Cannon's free skate was about to start. The corridors were nearly deserted, as the spectators were all racked with anticipation in the arena. I rendezvoused with Usami. How's it coming?
いえ、まるでダメです。怪しい人って言いますけど、どっちかっていうと自分の方が怪しいですから。
There you go. Usami finally recognized herself as a strange person. There are too few clues. We've got nothing to go on but the number 5. The words paper bag and the ko in Ikiko-san.
多すぎるくらいだとも思いますがね。
She mumbled to herself.
さっき警備の人にさすがに捕まえられましたよ。やっぱり世界の選手が集まるだけあって、それなりに警戒されてるんですね。
It might be, excuse me, it might be about time to stop then.
自分は尋問とか苦手でしてね。
That would be because it's hard enough as it is just to have a conversation with you.
こんな時にユキでもいれば。
There is still 15 minutes before the deadline of 9 o'clock.
はい。
Then my phone suddenly rang. It was Haribe. An empty seat, a brown bag. Is it a paper bag?
マジっすか?
It was a point that she herself made, but now she's standing there shocked. Understood. I'll head right over. C5, right? The audience was in a stir. Cannon's performance had just ended. The free skate is only 4 minutes long. To the performer and the audience, it might be a long period of time, but it passed in the blink of an eye when Usami and I were rushing to meet Haribe.
いやー、さすがカノンでした。素晴らしい。
Oh, shut up. You weren't even watching. Just like the spectators around us, Usami clapped excitedly. Judging by the audience's reaction, Cannon's victory is all but hers, as expected. I took a look at the screen that showed the points awarded. Sure enough, Cannon had the lead. There's still one contestant who hasn't performed yet, but based on her performance yesterday, she has no chance of beating Cannon. Which means Maou should be making his move. I walked to Haribe's side and took a look at the seat. C5 was empty. As we spoke, the last competitor began her performance. In the dead silent arena, it was best to stop the chattering. The clock kept on ticking, but I was hesitant to just sit down and wait patiently. The moment the soothing classical music stopped, we started moving again. Comfortably drowned out by the loud applause, Usami dashed for the seat. She grabbed the bag under the seat and spoke immediately.
何か入っています。中を開けてみましょう。
It was a small paper bag with a department store label on it. What if it's a bomb?
ええ、本当なら警察の方にお渡ししたいものですが、堀部さんが許さないでしょうね。しかし、例えば今この場で私を含め無関係な人を爆弾で吹き飛ばしたとしても、それがカノンの躍進を妨害することにはならないと思います。
I suppose that's true. If somebody died, the tournament might be cancelled, but that wouldn't stop Cannon from moving on to the Olympics. Beyond that, the police our Maou seems to detest more than anything would start an investigation.
開けます。
I nodded, and Usami tore apart the tape which sealed the paper bag. Another letter? The bag contained nothing but a single piece of paper, with the same texture as the thread letter. I stood beside Usami and read the words on the paper with her. Just like the letter that Gonzou received, it was in horrible handwriting. To a dear comrade, you've already made sure of Azai Kennen's victory, correct? Here's your next task. The target is Kanasaki Ikiko. Leave the arena. Head to the staff entrance. Chaos should erupt when fans start waiting for the skaters to come out. Indeed, it will be so chaotic that if someone were to die, no one would be able to tell who did it. Be especially careful when you use the dagger. One would die as if sleeping with a mere slice of the fingertip. A red carpet was being rolled out on the ice, and the award ceremony was about to begin. On the highest step of the winner's platform was Cannon. Concentrate on guarding the staff entrance. I stared at Horibe. The accomplice who accepted Mao's order was right there, getting ready to kill Ikiko-san. Horibe kicked into gear. He called his men and gave immediate instructions. Hey Usami, we should go too. Usami moved as well. However, she didn't climb the stairs of the seating section. Instead, she started talking with the person sitting behind C5.
そうですか。カーキ色のコート。30くらいの男性ですね。
そうよ。よく覚えているわ。前の人、いきなり席を立つんだもの。
何時頃でしたか？
瀬田真紀子が演技してたから。
今から10分くらい前ですね。8時40分くらいですか？
席に着いたと思ったらすぐにいなくなっちゃって。ほんと迷惑だわ。
Usami's response was very quick. She's already discovered what the accomplice looks like. Something felt wrong. Hey Usami, what's going on? Judging from the look on Usami's face as she turned back, I noticed how grim the situation was. She spoke with unchanging intonation.
おかしい。最初からおかしかった。しかし唯一の手がかりを追っていくしかなかった。あらかじめ敗北の決まっているチェスのゲーム。
She mumbled, as if talking to herself.
今すぐ止めてください。関係者通用口に向かっている皆さんをお願いです。早く。
Just like that? Why?
魔王は封筒にいくつも痕跡を残すようなヘマはしません。あの文章にしてもおかしい。ワープロ打ちではなく手書きというだけでも怪しいのに、妙に自慢げで程度の低い文面でした。そしてこの紙袋です。おそらくミスをしたのは魔王ではなく共犯者でしょう。
There's a mistake on the bag? I picked it up right away.
ガムテープです。
I finally understood.
まず優れた犯罪者というものはテープのように粘着性のあるものを嫌います。髪の毛、指紋、その他衣服の繊維なんかも知らず知らずのうちに付着されてしまうからです。何よりおかしいのは、共犯者はこの魔王の指示を開封しないでどうやって確認したのでしょうか。
True. The bag was sealed up until the moment Usami opened it.
そもそも、もし共犯者が魔王の指示を確認したのなら、まずこの手紙を持ち去っているはずです。
Because it's an order to kill. Leaving such a piece of evidence at the scene is too suspicious to be true.
しかし今確認したところ、8時40分頃に共犯者らしき男性がこの C の5の席に着いたようです。なぜでしょう。共犯者は何をしに現れたんでしょう。
False bait, which means...
はい。この紙袋を置いたのは魔王ではなく共犯者なのです。我々の目を育子さんに向けさせるためにわざとこんな証拠を残したんです。
I nodded with approval, then looked at my watch. It was nearly 5 after 9.
急ぎましょう、浅井さん。これは罠です。
The first target marked to feel the wrath of Mephistopheles was a woman named Yoshida Kimiko. Though Kanasaki Ikiko was also an unforgivable woman, Yoshida was even worse. Yoshida was a follower of a famous religious organization. That organization exists as a parasite feeding off of Japan's political circle and contributes to the nation's corruption. Of course, though their atrocities never make it to the public eye, the existence of their crimes is a well-known fact. Long before accepting Mao's instructions, Mephistopheles had already planned out a way to punish Yoshida with an iron fist of justice. Yoshida manages a cafe near the skating arena. The time was drawing near. The methods were simple. Mephistopheles wrapped his fingers tightly around the vial. Maou had taught him the procedure to create the toxin. It was simply to throw the vial into the shop, allowing the liquid to diffuse into the air and form a deadly mist. Not only Yoshida, but the customers too, birds of a feather anyway, would all die. Perfect. In any case, Maou had really thought this through. He chose the moment right after the figure skating event. It had already been a pain just getting out of the arena. The arena would soon be filled with mobs of people who didn't even know the meaning of the word patriotism. If one slipped into the crowd and boarded the subway in the immediate vicinity of the arena, there would be no worry of being caught no matter what came to pass. Mephistopheles had followed Mao's orders and placed the paper bag below the seat. In the brown bag was a phony instruction from Maou. It served only to throw the police off by indicating Kanasaki Ikiko as the target. He had never made eye contact with a single person in the arena. While the old lady behind him gave him a nasty glare when he stood up in his seat, but she wouldn't remember his face. After all, he had appeared as nothing more than an ordinary citizen. After a 10-minute walk, Mephistopheles arrived at the luxurious brick cafe. A cruel smile emerged on his face as he reached the front windows of the roadside shop. Within the cramped yet tidy sitting area, a few boys and girls sat at the bar and chatted with the bartender. He saw her. Yoshida Kimiko. His target was the fan. Die. He raised the vial over his head. Hesitation isn't necessary when making a kill. This wouldn't be the first time, anyway. Someone started to shout frantically. Surprising calls of, "That's the guy!" erupted behind him. "Hey you, stop right there!" they said. Mephistopheles looked back at their pointing fingers. Judging by their appearance, they seemed to be Yakuza. Their numbers multiplied. Curses came from all directions. Why? However, Mephistopheles was extremely calm. He put the vial into his pocket and moved with the pedestrian traffic towards the subway station. His ticket had been bought beforehand. He moved slowly and orderly. He took the 9:05 train. It was stopped at the station right on time. Mephistopheles slowly boarded the subway car, as planned. No, there had been a deviation from the plan. Yoshida was still alive. Why? How could this... He's pissed. By 9:30, the search for the accomplice had been called off. Usami was already gasping. Even so, you figured out that his real target was Yoshida-san? Usami shook her head in regret. Though it was already past 9, Gonzou's troops' quick response was able to save her. They rushed to Yoshida Kimiko-san's cafe and spotted a man in a khaki coat. Haribe spoke with a very depressed look. No, you've all given it your best. I'll report that to father. He gave me my due respect, but his attitude towards his subordinates was a completely different beast. Usami started talking to one of Haribe's dumb fucks. After a while, the conversation ended.
自分らは報告もありますし、撤収しますわ。
I returned to bow and watched them leave.
残念ですが。
What is it?
聞けば一瞬のことだったそうです。カーキ色のコートを着た男を見つけたと思ったら、いきなり喫茶店に向けて何か物を投げるような姿勢をとったんだそうです。顔はよく見えなかったが、年齢は30くらいで痩せている印象だったということですね。
Usami sighed. If that's all we have, then this isn't going to be easy. Anyone could wear a khaki coat.
確かったんですね。
So we're back to square one then?
いいえ、浅井さん。
Usami shook her head.
まだ手がかりはあるはずです。
Alright. Well, that was exciting.
たく、なんだよこんな時間に。
Why is Aichi in my friggin' apartment?
いや、ほんとすいません。
僕、これから録画したスケートのテレビ中継見ようと思ったのに。
みんなで見た方が楽しいじゃないですか。
Speaking of which, Aichi, weren't you there at the arena today? Do you always record the show even when you see it live?
もちろんだよ。解説聞きたいもん。会場内でも専用のラジオ貸し出してて、それで解説聞けるけど、テレビとは別の解説者だから。
You're hardcore. The cameras might have caught the accomplice's face. That was the argument Usami had made for calling Aichi to see if he'd recorded the program. C5 was, in fact, right next to the ice. From there, one could concentrate on the competition without worrying about the person's head in front of him. Thus, there's a relatively high chance that his face was caught on camera.
はい。これ録画した DVD ね。
I took the disc from Aichi and put it into the DVD player. The three of us glued our faces to the screen, and the DVD started after a moment. Ahem. The body of a woman who looked like a porn star occupied the whole screen, shaking violently. Hey.
ごめん。本日の一発ギャグ。
A bit surprisingly, Usami lowered her head in embarrassment.
はい。本物はこっち。
This better not be another joke. Aichi swapped out the DVD and pressed play again. Looks like the real thing, alright. An aerial shot of the irritatingly crowded skating arena displayed on the screen.
じゃあ、僕の解説を交えて最初から言ってみよう。
あ、8時半くらいからのを最初に見たいです。
え ?8 時半ったら最終グループの選手たちだよ。いきなりメインディッシュいただこうっていうの？
8時40分くらいですかね。瀬田真紀子さんという方からお願いします。
なんなのさ、瀬田のファンなの？
いや、まあ。
確かにね、瀬田はいい演技してたと思うよ。でもね、なんつうの、無難すぎたんだよね。そりゃミスはなかったけどさ。
While Aichi was blabbering on, I took the opportunity to jump directly to Seta's free escape program with the remote control. Seta really was cute. Compared to Kanon, who looks almost like a foreigner, she was shorter and had a rounder face. She looked like some adorable character created for advertisements when she smiled.
ああ、そこダブルだったんだね。トリプル狙わないとカノンに勝てないでしょうが、瀬田ちゃん。
I suddenly found Aichi lying on his stomach on the floor. He looked like a middle-aged man watching baseball. Usami silently concentrated on the screen. How many cameras did they use? The multi-angle shots were making me dizzy. I remember seeing the cameras hanging by steel wires turning busily over the audience at the arena.
Stop!
I pressed the pause button without a second thought. It was right before she stepped into her axle jump. Behind the ringside advertisement, sat the man we were looking for.
ちょっと何止めてんの？
Shut up, old man.
何？
Usami spoke quietly.
カーキ色のコート。この人ですね。
I'll play it a little bit further. The man lowered his head and stretched his hands under the seat. He started to stand up, but then the camera angle switched again. By the time the camera angle switched back, the seat was already empty. Want to zoom in and have a look?
できるのであれば。
I don't know how to do it. Let me look it up on the internet.
僕わかるよ。
Oh, wait, seriously? Have at it then.
でも教えてあげない。おっさんとかいうやつには教えてあげない。
Fine, if you help me get this done, I'll assist you with your patch-up plan with Miss Noriko.
自分も協力しますんで。
なんだよ二人して。そこまで言うなら仕方ないな。
I didn't want to let them into my study, so I brought a laptop into the living room. Opening the tools as Eiji instructed, we were finally able to modify the screen. The accomplice of Maou, the face of the man in the khaki coat, slowly became clear.
なんとまあ。
She muttered with a steep look. You recognize him? No way, surely you don't mean he's... the man Usami met late last night at the harbor.
そのまさかです。急ぎましょう。
え、ちょっとどこ行くの？
To a bar on Central Boulevard. For a drink.
僕お酒飲めないんですけど。
What a pity. Guess our figure skating appreciation gathering ends here.
なんかよくわかんないけど、のりこ先生のことは頼むよ。
それは任せてください。邪悪な計画を練り上げておきますので。
We dashed out of the room. A piercingly cold wind dominated the streets.
アザイさん、車を出していただけると。
Right.
どうしました？
I staggered and let a nearby street lamp bear my weight for a moment. I think I caught the flu.
大丈夫ですか？最近よく体を壊されるような気が。
I'm fine. I took my cell phone out.
どちらに電話を？
Gonzou, I'm calling for more men. We can't let him escape again.
わかりました。運転は控えた方が良さそうですね。少し休んでください。自分はタクシーでも拾っていきますんで。
Alright. Sorry about this. I'll catch up later. Just give me the address. Excuse me. Throat's giving out a little. My skull felt like it was splitting in two.
では。
Yeah, go. Usami ignored the bitter cold and dashed away. Usami's putting forth quite the effort. Now I...
もうそのバーには近づかない方がいいでしょう。
Mao's voice told him through the receiver. Mephistopheles bunched his shoulders in the cold wind and fled Central Boulevard.
それにしても浅井カノンと暴力団がつながっているというのは本当だったんだな。
ええ、彼らは陰ながらスケート会場の警備をしていたというわけです。
連中を巻くのは簡単だった。しかしわからないのはなぜ私だと気づいたんだ。
After a short silence, Mao said,
可能性の一つとして知らず知らずのうちに人の目を引くような行動を犯してしまったとか、例えば演技中に席を立ってしまったり。
ちょっと待て、演技中に席を立つだって。
Mephistopheles nearly tripped in the middle of the road.
マナー違反なのか？
Mao suddenly clammed up. Through this reaction, Mephistopheles understood.
すまなかった。そういえば後ろの席の女に悪態をつかれたような気がする。
あなたも急いでいたのでしょう。気が回らなかった私の不注意です。
いや、お前はきちんと指示してくれていた。紙袋を置く瞬間を誰にも覚えられてはならないと。滑走前の選手の練習中、観客が休憩している時を狙えと。
Mephistopheles grabbed his head and lamented his carelessness. The first step towards revolution had failed due to a trivial mistake. Mao must be similarly upset.
どうも申し訳なかった。
Mao's words shocked him, speechless.
あなたを危険な目に遭わせてしまった。
There was a tugging sensation at Mephistopheles' chest. He was overcome by a warm sensation. In all these years, no one has ever apologized to him. Mephistopheles spoke to the large-hearted man somewhere beyond the receiver.
魔王、次の指示をくれ。
His voice was thick with loyalty. About an hour later, I arrived at the bar Usami had run to. There weren't any customers in the dark establishment. Only Usami and the Yakuza, who had already arrived, were there, surrounding and interrogating the bar owner.
わかりました。では見かけたら連絡してください。
The shop owner, currently freaked out by the Yakuza, must have figured Usami was one of them. He nodded earnestly. How's it coming? I asked Usami for her report.
残念です。もう一本のところだったのですが、逃げられました。不意に電話がかかってきたと思ったら、店を出て行ったそうです。
Did you get a name? He might have given the bar owner his card before.
それが不愛想なお客さんらしくて、自分は革命家だと名乗ったっきりで、いつも一人で飲んでるんだそうです。
A revolutionary? I said it aloud as my mind digested the information. Speaking of which, the threat letter from Maou had a sort of an idealistic feel to it. Anyway, we already know what he looks like. It's only a matter of time now. Nobody can live in this city and hide from the eyes of Azai Gonzou's organization. My mother and I were found right away when we were dead dodging.
今日のところはこれまでですかね。
Usami looked unready to accept this defeat.
共犯者を見つけたところで魔王にたどり着けるのでしょうか。
It's possible. In any case, he's our only lead at this moment.
それです。
Usami spoke directly.
どこかで打開しなくては。いつまでも魔王の敷いたレールに乗っていたら我々は地獄行きです。
I felt the need to ask this of Usami, whose grave expression worried me. Is Maou really that terrifying?
脅迫状の文面に騙されてはいけません。先日身代金を奪われたことを忘れましたか？
But that's... Let me put it this way. It was only because he had us normal citizens as opponents that his plan worked, right?
警察相手には通じないと。
Well, just look at it. We're in the same situation here. Maou continues to avoid police intervention. Usami closed her eyes and shook her head.
マジシャンは別にマジシャンを相手に商売しているわけではありません。魔王は観客の程度というものを心得ています。
She has a point.
それが証拠に魔王は物証には細心の注意を払っています。
The evidence trails we've had so far are the cell phone Maou gave you and the threat letter. Only two? True, we couldn't get any clues from that throwaway cell phone.
脅迫状もそうです。
You mean the style was intentional?
すべて万一脅迫状が警察の専門家の手に渡った場合を想定してのことです。
You mean in the event that it got put up to handwriting analysis?
それだけではなく、言語心理学の専門家が文章から犯人の特徴を分析します。出身や国籍、性格や IQ なんかも割り出せるんだそうです。
So you're saying he's trying to play dumb?
何が芸でつながりですか？何が花紙に使わせてもらったですか？某世紀末アニメの第1話に出てくるモヒカンですら、こんなもん花紙にもなりゃしねえと言いますよね。
Only hardcore fans would memorize such a line. What the hell am I supposed to know about that? Then why did he handwrite it? Taking into account that the threat letter might be analyzed by the police, wouldn't it be a smart choice just to use a computer from the onset?
だからこそ私はまず罠だと思いました。そしてこの文章には必ず仕掛けがあるのだと。
This theory wasn't so crackpot after all. And you were right. There were traces of words on the envelope. And the murder nearly succeeded.
魔王はいずれ警察と戦うつもりなのでしょう。そうとしか思えないほど慎重です。
Then now would be the perfect time to catch Maou. Usami nodded deeply.
何のつもりかわかりませんが、魔王は私のような取るに足らない人間と遊んでくれています。その慢心につけ込む余地があればいいのですが。
No, he's not just playing with you. He's involved Gonzou in things this time.
はい。もう一度言いますが、魔王は観客の程度に合わせたマジックを用いてくるでしょう。
Meaning? Usami sighed before glaring at me with a defined sharpness in her eyes.
椿の時より大きな被害が出るということです。
Dun dun dun! Alright. And with those rather foreboding words, that's a good place to end this episode. So as always, thank you guys for watching, and hope to see you all next time.